So if you're concerned that you might be enabling your loved one in some kind of way, there's a number of areas that you can, look into, and here are some of the ways that you can intervene. So there's many strategies that you can utilize, and a large portion of it depends on what exactly the main enabling behaviors are that you're using. We see all different kinds of behaviors being used by family members. So it would depend on what that specifically was, and I'm sure if you're involved, if your loved one is involved in treatment somewhere, that they have a family program, the therapist and the engaged staff here at DreamLife, the liaisons, would be some of the people that could give you some valuable feedback on specifically what you're doing and ways in which to stop that. But the overview would be self-reflection and education. A lot of times, too, the reason that we're doing this is because of us. That somehow, again, I feel inferior. I feel like on the parenting front, one of the things that parents don't tell new parents is that there's a lot of guilt. Even if you're doing the right things all the time, like, you don't know, is it too much? Is it not enough? There is no book. And so a lot of times it is, I need to take a step back and realize that regardless of how good or not good I did previously in parenting, that I need to make new decisions starting today moving forward, that I didn't nail it every day, and that's okay. Nobody nails it every day, and that you can move forward thinking of you and getting treatment yourself and learning what enabling looks like. I think that the first step is to understand even what it means, and then the ways in which you're demonstrating that enabling. Seek feedback. Like I said originally, if the person is in treatment somewhere that they offer a family program, listen to what the person telling you is saying. The therapist's goal or the liaison's goal is to give you honest feedback based on what they're seeing. And yes, they're not in your family and they may not know the intimate secrets of what that family life looks like, but they can see what, from afar, the 30-foot view of what's going on in the family, and give you some really valuable feedback on how to fix that. And also, like I said earlier too, therapy. I think that as a parent, if you find and seek therapy yourself, I think they can give you a lot of good feedback in areas that you can make some changes. Identifying patterns. Again, loved ones that are in active use oftentimes have their own patterns. And so if we can see their patterns, then we can see what our patterns are in response to their patterns. And then, figure out new ways to behave. Recognizing that we're noting the consequences, like, what is the consequence happening and how do I let them feel that? It's like a chess game, right? They make a move and then I make a move. And so where is my end game? If my end game is treatment, to get somebody into treatment, my loved one or my kid, what do I need to do to make that step to go in that direction? And then when they make a move, I have to reevaluate and then make a different move. Cannot say enough about establishing clear rules. And now, again, we probably didn't have many boundaries before, and now we're starting to set boundaries, so it's not gonna go good, right? We're gonna say, we're not gonna do that, and they're gonna do it. We're gonna say no, and they're gonna push those limits, and we need to stick to those limits. Because if I say no 5 times and I say yes the 6th time, I just undid all of the 5 no's that I said before. And so we're just cutting off our nose in spite of our face. We're making the situation way harder. We set the boundaries, say, you cannot return home unless you've completed treatment. And by completed, I mean everything that they expected you to do. And then we stick to that. That we're being consistent, that it's not your version of what you think treatment is, it's what the treatment's version of what you think treatment is. A lot of times we see clients coming in, they're like, well, I'm only going to do detox and then I'm going to do outpatient, which can that be successful? Absolutely, but in 1% of the general population. So if your goal is to have as much success as possible, we want to do something different. And as a facility, we're going to tell you that, and then sticking to what it is that the facility is saying, not what they're saying, they don't know, sticking to what we're saying as the facility. Encouraging responsibility, again, that there is a cleaning up portion of early recovery. It's like we've been running in active use from all of these consequences. And when we finally stop in treatment, all of the consequences are like smacking us in the face, right? Legal consequences and family consequences and children and youth maybe, and I lost my job, everything's happening. But part of what we need to do is the family is to say, yeah, it stinks. Like, this is a terrible situation to be in, but what do we need to do next to get through this? And then how, holding them accountable to that responsibility, that if, I'm playing with Legos and I throw them on the floor, I have to pick them up. That's part of this, right? So I made some of these messes. I need to clean them up. I will support you as your mom. I will support you, or as your loved one, I will support you, but you need to do the cleaning up of that. Avoid rescuing. Again, it's much easier for me to come in and clean the Legos. But if I do that, then there isn't anything learned as a result of it. And so we're setting those boundaries that you're going to do that, and then we're going to hold them accountable to doing exactly what it is that we told them originally. We're going to focus on supportive action. So we're going to offer emotional support. We're going to offer encouragement, anything that we can do to support that. If they're in treatment and we need to, make sure that their kids are getting to school, that's great. As long as they're in treatment, we'll do that. If we need to, if the facility's calling and they're saying, hey, we think that longer treatment would be better, or maybe a higher level of care would be better, or something along those lines, working to help and support your family member in making that choice. Oftentimes longer treatment is a hard choice, but as a family member, we can support them in making that choice in the supportive actions. As they're doing the right things, we will help and offer that support for them to continue doing those right things. Helping to develop a new support system. Again, oftentimes our loved ones have destroyed their support system. They don't really have much happening in that area. And so we can help, right? Help to make sure that they have a support. We can be part of that support. We can make sure that they get a therapist, they're going to meetings, maybe 12 steps, smart recovery, whatever they're interested in. They're seeking counseling, we're seeking counseling, but that we all have our support so that we can make sure that we're all staying even in level, staying above water, if I'm supported, then I can support you, and that we're supporting those emotional needs. Practicing self-care is important. Again, during the time that our loved ones were in active use, we're not sleeping, we don't know when the phone's going to ring, and it's going to be something very serious and terrible. And so during the time that they're in treatment, it's time for us to take care of ourselves. And so what can we do to make sure that I'm getting, some me time? I'm going to start doing some things I used to enjoy, and maybe getting outside, or hanging out with friends that I haven't seen in a long time. But I'm going to start taking care of myself, and I'm going to start setting limits. It's not all about what I can do for you, that I have to take care of me too. And then I'm going to prioritize me taking care of me as well. Communicate effectively. We're going to use I statements. So, I statements are important in that this is what I think about it. I'm not telling you about you. I'm talking about me. That we can be honest. This is how I feel about what's going on, and this is where I have struggled with some of the things, or this is how I feel about some of my role in what the situation is for you. We can have some of those open conversations where we're going to communicate effectively, and the same thing too on the honestly. I think that it's always better to lead with, you can't come home unless you finish treatment, than pretending like, well, maybe you should do this, or let's explore this, but what I really mean is, no, you can't come home. We just need to say that. We need to be upfront with, this is an expectation of mine, and I'm going to communicate that effectively with you. We're going to allow natural consequences. So if in fact you break the law, there are legal consequences for that. Or if in fact you don't go to work, there are natural consequences for that. And we're going to stop interfering with that. We're going to watch those natural consequences happen, and then recognize that whatever we need to do to support them to address those and help to get back in the swing of it when we've entered into treatment and or are finding recovery. And we're going to resist intervening as hard as it's gonna be, and watching this situation happen and knowing we probably could help in some kind of way. We're going to resist doing that and recognize that if the end goal is to treatment and recovery, then this is going to get us there quicker. Creating an action plan. One of the things we do here at DreamLife that I think is really helpful, especially if we're intervening with somebody, you have a loved one who doesn't want treatment, you're frustrated by their behaviors, you reach out to DreamLife to say, hey, can you help me? Or like, yes, we will send out our interventionist. The interventionist comes out, let's create an action plan, and that we're all going to be on the same page. So our interventionist will give you very clear outline for what it is that they're going to expect and what role they're going to play, and then you have your own role. So what is your role, and what does that look like? Listening to what they're saying and then doing those things. It's really pretty easy. Sometimes it's just when they say, can I come home? You're going to say no. And then you just stick to no. It's not hard. It's not a difficult task, but it is very hard to do. And we're going to set those goals, and we're going to develop the plan, and then we're going to work the plan. And that's where you're going to see the successful outcomes. When everybody working with the loved one is all working together as a well-oiled machine with the end goal of getting the loved one into treatment and finding recovery, that's when we see the most success.